HPE this week had their big Discover event. You and I have been tuning in since Monday. It really ran all week long. Ton of announcements. You've written a few pieces on Forbes, some good ones. We've got a bunch of the different announcements highlighted. You and I both did some on-camera analysis. I believe you jumped on theCUBE and talked about it. I actually did the post-mortem on Antonio's keynote right on the HPE's event network. So we were getting early and often, Pat. We were looking and talking about it. It'll be hard for us to kill all the oxygen here because there's so many things to talk about. I'll let you go first and see if you leave me at least a few things to chomp on at the end.
Yeah, so first off, this was the most comprehensive Discover that I've seen in probably 5 years. I think it was 4 years ago, Antonio introduced GreenLake in Western Europe, but this was just it was huge. And what I'm going to talk about is GreenLake. And, the announcements came over really a 2-week period, right? They made acquisitions, they updated GreenLake, they pretty much updated everything. And I'm going to show you my article because it's pretty awesome on Forbes. But basically, they took enterprise on-prem as a service infrastructure to the next level. They did two things. First of all, they went vertical, and they went vertical in areas that I feel like HPE has core competencies in, and also that there are robust ISVs. So GreenLake for 5G core systems. So basically 5G as a service. And that's using their own software. GreenLake for EMR, using Epic and Cerner. GreenLake for Splunk. We interviewed Splunk CEO Doug Merritt, which was awesome on that. And also we interviewed Kumar Srikanti, HPE CTO and software head for the 6.5 Summit. So going vertical, right? It's natural, right? You build out horizontal, and then you go vertical. And not that they're done going horizontal. Is, by the way, I'm going to leave all the horizontal stuff to you. But they also came out with this new service called Lighthouse. So HPE GreenLake Lighthouse. And essentially what this is more of a cloud-like experience when it comes to options, order processing, and setup. So, I've talked to some HPE GreenLake customers and some partners, and there's still a lot of paperwork involved. And you can literally get all the options on-prem with GreenLake, and you want another network adapter? Sure, we'll bring that in, right? You want it from Lenovo? We'll integrate everything for you. Lighthouse is GreenLake going on scale, less options, less complication for partners, and I think this is truly their big play. And if I look out 5 years, I would say 75% of their sales of their service revenue is going to be Lighthouse. And Daniel, actually, let me add one more, and I'll flip it over to you. HPE introduced Silicon on Demand. And Silicon on Demand, by the way, IBM Z has been doing this forever, where they have latent cores, or you can reassign cores to do other work, or you can add cores during peak times and only spend more money then. So partnering with Intel, and HP is the first one to do this, and I believe they've got a 6-month exclusive on this, where let's say you come in with a 40-core processor, and you're only paying for 25. You only need 25, but when you need the other 15 cores, you pay more for the service. You pay more for GreenLake. And I think that's brilliant. I think that's so smart, and that gets more to a cloud model. That's what you do with AWS. You need more processors, you need more servers. You go up there and you go to the AWS Cloud Console and you add more servers. So hats off to these guys. I feel like, Daniel, they did move it forward. I still think they're the one to beat right now. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Dell Technologies is going to go after them from a scale play, right? PCs and infrastructure and a lot more diverse infrastructure, right? Like Isilon is essentially mainframe storage, right? HP doesn't do that stuff. And then you'll have pure plays like Pure, who are rocking it, and I think have an exceptional storage as a service function. So they're in the lead. There's a lot of competition, a lot of opportunity for people to move places here.
Yeah, absolutely, Pat. So a lot of ground covered there. I think I want to just touch quickly on where we're at with HPE. Remember, it was going on 2+ years ago that Antonio Neri, CEO, came out and said, we are going to be the XaaS company, or the everything as a service company. If you would have at the time told me that the company would be this far along in terms of building out its services, I would have probably never believed you.
But he had said that in my article too.
This was a big iron metal core, infrastructure company, made its life on selling big, hard infrastructure, big dollars. And this kind of pivot is you cannot underestimate the complexity of making this type of shift. However, I give a lot of credit to the executive team. I give a lot of credit to Antonio, some key hires like Keith White, who's leading the Greenlight business, came in from Microsoft, brought a much more software-centric mentality into the business. And the company's kind of doing a few things that I think have been really impressive. First, it has done a good job of bringing these services. What you mentioned with Lighthouse, look, we are seeing the forces come to the middle. The forces of public cloud is not the answer for everything. The public cloud is addressing this through a series of upgrades and improvements and new offerings to be more hybrid focused. But these companies, enterprises, have massive deployments of infrastructure on-prem in their own data centers, and doing the public cloud version of hybrid isn't easiest for all of these companies. And HPE, and as you mentioned, Dell, Cisco, IBM, they all understand this, and they're trying to build better and better mousetraps to address this. The other thing I think HP has done really well is verticalizing in terms of industry vertical, coming out with approaches to deal with some of these really complex industries. So financial services and healthcare, in industries where you have high demands for regulatory compliance, they're building out and structuring offerings that have been really pre-canned with best practices incorporated to deal with compliance and regulatory needs. Just one other thing to mention, Pat. I also thought there was some good launches. You had a great piece on Aurora. Security is being zero trust. Where'd you hear that in this podcast? Zero trust approach to security through HPE. That's a big announcement that took place here. Not something to be ignored, because there were so many announcements, though. We didn't even get to that. And the other thing, there was an acquisition that came out on Monday before, a company called Determined AI. The ML and training capabilities, and HPE having a software narrative to develop scale. And this was a full stack thing. It wasn't a dollar disclosure. So we don't know, the size of this deal, but from a capability standpoint, you're talking about it from data prep to model training and development to model deployment, a new stack that's pretty comprehensive, plugs into the public cloud, plugs into on-prem, supports the biggest, everything from Apache Spark all the way through to TensorFlow, so that people can build, deploy, train, scale their AI. And this is something that's going to be a really big thing going forward.